Judge Hachett, it is an honor to be able to finally get the opportunity to sit down with you. And we're not in the courtroom.
We're not in the courtroom, and you're not before me.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, great, great. So I just learned that you are going back to television.
I am.
Can you talk about that?
Yes, I'm very excited. I'm going to be going back to television with a new court show in fall of 2016, and it'll be called The Verdict with Judge Hachett. It'll be nationally syndicated, and so I'm excited, and people have been very supportive and very responsive to the show, and a lot of excitement around it.
Well, tell me about what's the concept of the show. Obviously, because you know your other show was about dealing with juveniles. Is this similar? This
will be similar. Yes, you'll see a lot of what I've done before in kind of a traditional court TV setting. And so we will work to keep it interesting and new and fresh because the old show was me. It was authentically me and what I did and my passion for young people and their families. And so we did a lot of interventions. And it's so exciting to run into somebody now that says, you know, you changed my life. And people who weren't necessarily on the show who said, you know, you changed my life because I watched you growing up. And so that's a good feeling. And I'm excited to be going back to television in the fall of 16.
Wow. You know, I looked at a clip that you were the keynote speaker. I think this was the Kings County Boys and Girls Club.
Oh, yes.
And why it struck home is I was the youth counselor in New York City for the Boys and Girls Club as well.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, and I was in the dealt with the drug empowerment program.
Sure.
So, you know, talking to a lot of youth, you know, and trying to give them some of my experience. And you know, when I listened to you talk to kids when you were on your show, it rung home. How important for you is it to continue that mission? Because obviously it's a mission of yours.
Critically important. And to your question specifically about the Boys and Girls Club, I served for a number of years on the National Board of Governors. And the reason I did that is because I know that programs like that are so critical in keeping young people out of courtrooms like mine. That if we can have them engaged in strong programs and great influences, then they're less likely to end up in courtrooms. And we know from studies that the highest incident of juvenile crime, delinquency, is not, which I thought before I started this work, was, you know, midnight on Saturday night, but it's really in those critical hours from 3 to 6 in the afternoon where our young people don't have enough positive things keeping them focused and out of trouble.
Recently there was a video that showed a South Carolina student being pulled out of a chair and flung across the room. And I think the officer's name was Ben Fields. When you saw that video, if you saw that video, what did you think about that?
I was appalled. I was horrified. First of all, thankful that when she was thrown out, the chair was tossed, that her back wasn't broken or her neck wasn't broken. And then it became even more exasperated by the fact that she was literally thrown across the room. And I was concerned. I was also gratified by the fact that the sheriff immediately called for an outside investigation and asked for the federal government to come in, the FBI to come in and investigate that. And very quickly thereafter, that particular officer was terminated. But I am concerned. But the question becomes, we would have never seen it had not there been some courageous students who were willing to film it. Like we would have never seen the man shot several times in the back by the police officer had there not been a very courageous citizen who took that and then said he almost decided to destroy it because he was afraid of the repercussions. And so I think that we are having an insight in situations now that we wouldn't ordinarily have because of the technology. But I was very, very disturbed by that. I really was. Now, people have argued with me and said, but if she'd just given up the phone, and she should have given up the phone. Let me be very clear about that. She should have given up the phone. It should not have been necessary for the resource officer to come into that classroom, right? No disagreement on that part. But once the officer was there, I thought it was excessive.
Are you a proponent of keeping safety officers in the school with the climate of what's happening, like in Virginia Tech? And
I am.
Okay.
I am, and I think that it is necessary given the tenor of the times, given the fact that we have seen so many school shootings, that I think it would not be wise for us not to have that extra layer of security and protection. Will it always keep things from happening in the schools? No. But I also think that we've got to be careful not to escalate, allow things to get escalated, where a teacher or a principal would come in. Before these would happen, you wouldn't have a school resource officer in the classroom.
When I was in school, I didn't have.
No, and neither did I. And your teacher told you one time to do something, and you did it. And so I'm concerned on a number of layers. But I wouldn't pull the resource officers out of the classrooms or out of the schools because of the incident that happened in Columbia. I would not, because I think that there is a need, and there's a reason why we've had to have them, sadly, but there's a reason we've had them.
Have you experienced it in college or coming through?
Oh, absolutely. Because, see, I grew up here in Atlanta in the Deep South. I am a product of this culture and this environment. I've seen a lot of things change. But I will be the first to tell you that racism and sexism is still very much alive. And yes, I absolutely have experienced at all junctures as a child, in college, in high school, in college, in law school, even in my professional life. I absolutely have. And, I had someone ask me, which I don't think was intended as a racist comment, and I just think it was just somebody not understanding, who said, "Oh, it must be horrible to be a black woman." And my response is that if I could choose to come back to earth as anything, I would come back as a black woman. And actually the challenges have made me stronger. They have made me who I am. And so you have to decide, and I talk about this in my first book, or actually in my second book, Dare to Take Charge, where you have to decide at different points in your life whether you're going to be a victim or you're going to be victorious. And so I take great pride in the fact that I am an African American woman. I take great pride in my historical roots. And yes, racism has been an issue, and I think it still is very much an issue in this country.